Hi, and welcome to freshmind.com. My name is Eric, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to control the reflectivity over different parts of an object. In our case, it's going to be this green floor here. I've got some walls with a Lambert material applied with a checkerboard pattern just so we can see our reflections. Our floor has a simple blend, and all I did was change the color to green. Alright, I'm going to open up my Hypershade. You can go up to Windows, Rendering Editors, over to Hypershade if you want. Here's our two shaders that I created. Here's the wall, and the one on the left is the floor. If I double click on the floor, open up the Attributes Editors, you'll see that I changed the color to green, and that's all I've done to it other than change the name to shader_floor. Right now, the default value for reflectivity, if you look down here in my attribute editor, I've got it highlighted. The default value is 0.5. That's pretty good reflectivity. So if we do a rendering right now, you can see that the floor is nice and reflective. It's not 100% reflective, it's 0.5, which means it's 50% reflective. So it's got a nice reflectivity on there. But let's say that we wanted half this floor to be reflective and half the floor to be non-reflective. In our case, we're going to make the left side of our floor reflective and the right side of our floor non-reflective. Right now, if we go to our setting down here where reflectivity, if we lower this value to say 0.25, then our floor is going to be basically 25% reflective, but that value is going to change the reflectivity for the whole entire floor. And we only want part of our floor to be reflective, not the whole thing. The way we can do that is by using a black and white image. Everywhere it's black will be 0% reflective, and everywhere that it's white will be 100% reflective. And then if you use different shades of gray, then that would represent different percentages of reflectivity between 100% and 0%. Alright, before we apply a texture, anytime you're going to work with a texture on an object, you need to look at the UVs. So I'm going to select my floor, and I'm going to make sure I'm in my polygon menu set. I'm going to go to Edit UV menu, go down to UV Texture Editor, and it allows me to see the textures. Now all this area is green. Our floor, we applied a green material, so you can see where our texture space is. So this whole, if you've never used the texture editor before, this whole upper right hand quadrant is our texture, our UV texture space for our floor. But our floor, as you can see out here with this white line, that's the only part of our texture that the floor is using right now. So if we had a texture of a painting, well, our floor would only display just a small portion of our texture, because the texture would actually cover this whole green area. So what we want to do is we want to utilize more of this space. So I'm going to right click, select UV. I'm just going to click and drag around all these UVs, and I'm just going to use my scale tool to scale this up, move tool to move it where I want it. Now the ideal is to have it all the way to the edge so you can get as much space utilized as you can. For this tutorial, just to make it easier so you can see what's going on a little better, I'm going to shrink the UVs from my floor just a little bit. Alright. Before we go into GIMP or Photoshop or whatever photo editing software you'll be using to actually create a black and white image, I'm going to demonstrate it by just attaching a simple ramp. So I'm going to select my floor, make sure I select my shader node up here in my attribute editor. There's our color. Go down further, there's our reflectivity. We're going to control the reflectivity with a black and white image, and I'm going to do that by using a ramp. So the far right of that value, I'm going to click on the button that has a checkerboard on it. This dialog box opens up, and I'm going to select, under where it says 2D textures, I'm going to select ramp. So once I click ramp, over in our attribute editor, you'll see we have a ramp now that goes from blue to green to red. We only need two colors, black and white, so I'm going to get rid of this middle color just by clicking on the box on the right hand side of the ramp with the X in it. That gets rid of it. And now we've got just two colors, blue and red, but we need to change that to black and white. So I'm going to click on the blue circle. That's going to allow me to go down below where it says selected color and just click on that blue swatch now, and now I can change that to black. Click accept. I'm going to click on the red circle. I'm going to click on the selected color swatch, change that to white. accept. So now we have a ramp that goes from black and white. All right, we said that white is 100% visible and black is 0% visible. I can drag these any way I want to organize this ramp. I'm going to go ahead and move these colors close together so we have a nice, more distinct transition between the two. And our texture sample up here, you see that the black is on top and the white is on the bottom. I want the white to be on the left and the black to be on the right. So I'm going to change the ramp attributes, the type from VRamp to URamp. Let's go ahead and do a render and let's see what we have. If the render comes out the way we want, which it looks like it is, the left side is going to be 100% reflective, representing the white side of our texture, and the right side is going to be 0% reflective, representing the areas that are black. And we've got a slight smooth transition because we're using a linear interpolation. So you can see that by using black, white, and any shade of gray, we can control where we want the reflectivity to show on our floor, and not only where we want reflectivity, but how much reflectivity in those areas. So let's do this. Let's make the center of our floor reflective, highly reflective, and let's make the border, the outside border of our floor, 0% reflective with a slight transition from non-reflective to reflective. And I'm going to do that with GIMP. And if you use another photo editing software, it's basically the same process. First thing we need to do is for this blend is we need to get rid of that ramp we created. So I'm going to go back into my Hypershade. So under Windows menu, down to Rendering Editors, over to Hypershade. There's our floor right there, our floor shader. Right up, I'm going to select the floor shader, and then right above it, right underneath the main menus, there's 3 buttons that have boxes on them with an arrow going in. The next one has an arrow going in and out, and then the last one has an arrow going outward. I'm going to click on the middle one. That's representing all of our input and output connections. So when I click that, it's going to put our blend material, since I had it selected, down here in our work area along with all of our connections. Alright, you can see our ramp, and there's like a line that connects our ramp to our blend. If we click on that line turns yellow. Now all I have to do is hit the delete button or the backspace button on your keyboard, and it breaks that connection. Once it's broken, we can go in here and select our ramp and our texture node, our texture placement node, and just hit delete, and it gets rid of that. So now our blend is back to almost default. So if we double click, open up the attributes, you can see there's our reflectivity. It's back to 0.5, just like it was when we first created it. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to use a file. So let's go ahead and go into, actually before we do that, the easiest way to do it is going to be to take a picture of our floor. That way we know exactly where the edges of our floor are. And then that way we can get a better, accurate painting to represent our areas that are reflective. What we're going to do that is select our floor, going to go back up to our UV texture editor. There is our floor UVs. I'm just going to go into the polygon menu set, UV snapshot, and I'm going to browse, put this on my desktop, and I'm going to call this floor UVs. Save. Alright, the next option is size. I'm just going to use a very small size, so 256 by 256. As long as it's square, you want it to be square, because if you look at our UV texture editor, you'll see that this green area is square. So having a square texture is ideal. The anti-lacing, I'm leaving mine off. If you turn that on, it just means your UVs, like this white line you see, will just be smoother looking. And if you leave it off, then it's going to be a harder, more fine lines. The issue with having anti-lacing turned off is, depending on your UVs, you could get some where it kind of looks like the lines are jaggedy. So that's what that is right there. Image format, I'm going to change this to PNG or TIFF just so that it's transparent. And I'm going to click OK. Let's make sure it's on our desktop now. Alright, there's our UVs. And you can see right there we have a line that represents our floor. We can take this into some photo editing software and we can start painting exactly where we want to on our floor. Alright, close this out. I'm going to open up GIMP. And then I'm going to navigate to my desktop. So File, Open, go to my desktop, and there's our floor UVs. Just open that up. Alright, I'm going to create a new layer. So over here in the layers, I'm going to click on this little button down here towards the bottom left. And if you don't see this layers, close all tabs. I'm just going your floor UVs that your workspace, just go under dialogues and click on layers. And there's our layers. Alright, bottom left, I'm going to just click on the button for a new layer. Let's call this, we'll just say this is our texture. So I'm just going to say texture. And let's see, we're going to make a black and white image, so I'm just going to make it the layer white for now. I'm going to put our background on top. Let's move that up. There we go. And we can't really see our lines, but that's okay. We'll see them when I start painting because we're going to be painting with black. And actually it's already on black. Let's change our brush to kind of a fuzzy brush. Bigger size. Make sure we're painting on the right texture, the right layer. And let's just kind of start painting so now you can see where the floor is at. I'm going to take this brush down a little bit more just so it's a little bit. Alright, so there's the white is representing our floor. When we apply this to our reflectivity, then the outside parts of our floor are going to be 0% reflective. This area, this white is going to be 100% reflective, and then this kind of grayish area is going to be like a nice little smooth transition. So let's go ahead and get rid of our UV lines because we don't want that to be showing on our texture. So I'm just going to right click and delete that layer. And now I'm going to image, down to flatten, file, save, or actually save as. So I'm going to save this as a JPEG. So .jpg, desktop, save, 100% quality. Alright, I'm going to close that out. There is our texture now for our floor. So let's go back into Maya, select our floor. Let's go to the attributes. There's our shader node. There's our color. Down below there's our reflectivity. Far right, same thing. I'm going to click on the button with the checkerboard. And this time, instead of selecting ramp, I'm going to select file. So I'm going to click on file. Here's our image name in our attribute editor. Far right, the button has a picture of a folder. I'm going to click that button. Now we can navigate to our desktop. There's my floor UVs. Actually, I probably should have named it to floor texture or something. Click open. Our texture sample, you can see the black and white just like we painted it. So now if we render this out and everything works correctly, outside borders of our floor should be non-reflective and the center should be reflective. Okay, immediately we can tell that the whole thing is reflective, and that's because of the alpha. We're using a black and white image. It's kind of like an alpha image, but we don't really have any true alpha. It's a JPEG file, so JPEG doesn't store any alpha information. So what we're going to do is, let me just go and cancel this rendering. Over here where our file is, at the very bottom, you'll see a section that says color balance. Just expand that, and you're going to look for an option that says alpha is luminance. We're going to select that since we don't have any true alpha. We're kind of using color, solid colors to represent alpha, where we want our reflectivity to show and where we don't want it to show. So we need to change this to alpha is luminance. Now if we do a render, it should come out correctly, which it looks like it is. That's all there is to it. It's very simple to do. Just get a UV snapshot of your UVs, take it into some photo editing software, and just start painting black and white areas or gray or however you want your textures to look. You can do this for, if we look at our settings for our blend material, we've got color, we got transparency, so you could do the same thing for transparency. Ambient color, you could do the same thing for ambient color, and actually right now on my walls, I've got the ambient color turned all the way up. That way I don't have to worry about getting, adding some lights and making the lights really bright to see all the walls. Because if I turn this ambient down and do another rendering, then our walls aren't going to be as bright. And so all I did was turn on this ambient all the way up to make these bright. So you could use the same principle for determining where you want ambient, brightness on your textures. You could do the same thing for incandescence. There's bump mapping, same thing for visual effects. Underneath there, you've got a glow effect. So each material has its own attributes, and all these different settings, you can use the same principle. And that concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.